Hey guys, so welcome back to a IO hacking game tutorial. So today we're going to be looking at how to make bots for shellshock.io. Now the bots are going to be looking like this. You join a game and you run the command to summon the bots, it will look like this. And you'll get tons of bots in the game. So here's what you're going to need. So we're going to need to download Node.js and some sort of text editor. I would recommend Atom for this, although you can keep using Notepad++, and I will be using it. To understand what we're going to be doing, we're going to be pretending to be a client and using WebSockets to communicate with the server. Now there's a few things we need to understand here. We need to use the protocol that they use to communicate with the server, and we also need to find any information and the order that they send stuff. This can all be discovered from looking at the game code. So now we're going to want to get a copy of the game code. If we go to shellshock.io, press Ctrl-Shift-I. If you can't get it, click in the URL and then do it. And we're then going to want to find shellshock.min.js. Click on it. And you're going to want to expand it. And it will take a while to display it, but once it's been displayed, you then want to press Pretty Print. And give it... It's quite big. Alright, here we go. So we now want to copy and paste it into a Notepad++ or just any JS file. And then we're going to go into Atom and we're going to go add project folder, and we're going to go into our desktop and create a new folder and name this bots. Now we're going to want to create two files. We want game code. Oh, and we go back and select our bots. And now we've got this, so we can delete that because that was a mistake. And we're going to want to create a new file. I'm going to call it bots.js, and then new file and call it gamecode.js. So now in our game code, we're going to want to paste the code from here. So Control A, Control C, like this. And now that we've got that, what we're going to want to do is try and find their protocol for connecting to the server. So in our bots.js, we're going to want the method used to communicate. We're going to want the their encoding, and we're going to want the logical order of connecting. So what that basically means is what order they send packets. So do they send a join game packet? Do they send a key to verify whether this is an actual person? The whole aim of this is to pretend to be a legitimate player who's connected on a web browser. And although this works for all games, the more sophisticated IO games will start performing checks and all of this more complicated stuff that you will have to crack yourself. And obviously, if you can't see the game code or if you don't understand how JavaScript works, you're going to have a really hard time struggling to understand this. So we know that sockets can be created using a new WebSocket. So we want to go new WebSocket. And we're going to find all areas in their code that they create a socket. So here it looks like this is where they create a socket to log in with your play information. We don't really want that. We want here. So this is where they log in and join a game. So just looking at this code, you can see there's a variable called HE, and it has got so it's an object and it's got a whole bunch of attributes. And it definitely looks like that's going to be important, because coming down here you can see we're going to be packing into the encoding what we actually want to happen. So we want the method to be a join game, and as you can see, we're also going to want this VT, which is get buffer. Now, some games you can use a pre-existing library. Shellshock, which is the game I'm making this for, uses their own encoding. So we're going to want to go ahead and find these variables. So let's start off with HE. Because we know it's an object, we can just search for HE equals that, and we should be able to find it eventually. There we go. And as you can see, it contains all event that the socket can send, and what the socket will be doing is sending a packet with like an ID. So say for example, wants to send that you've hit someone, it will send number 10 to the server, and that will tell it that you're sending a hit them packet. So we're definitely going to want this. So we just copy and paste this into our program, and I'm going to minimize it. And then we go back to gamecode.js, and what we do here is we want to go back to our new WebSocket and find where that was. Here we go. So we're going to want to use WebSockets. Let me just turn my music off. We're going to want to use a WebSocket. So going back here, we're going to want to add at the very top of our document, we're going to want to include the WebSocket library. So const WebSocket equals require, and we're going to require this. And so what this means now is we're going to actually have to go and install WebSockets. So open PowerShell here, and then go npm install socket.io. I've already installed it, so this should be quick. And as you see, it's been run and installed. Now, what we've got here is we've got the library to create WebSockets. So now we're going to want to keep looking at their code. So if you actually go to Shell Shockers and press create game, and create a game, it gives you a game code. So we're going to want to be using this and figuring out how it actually works. So I'm just going to copy all of this. And I'm going to just comment it and put it here. Now, if you go into console, and let's quickly write a little hook that we're going to use in the console to figure out what packets are being sent. So we're going to want to go websocket.proto, actually we're going to go WebSocket equals class extends WebSocket. And if you watch my first tutorial, you should learn what we're doing here. We're basically hooking the WebSocket class. And we're then going to want to so watch my first tutorial and you understand what we're doing here. But this is basically when you create a WebSocket, we want to get the URL. So console.log arguments 0. So this is the very first argument passed in the constructor method. And we're then going to want to capture any send. So send, and same thing, we want to capture whatever's being sent into the send method. So if now that we've got this, we should be able to reload the page and stick this here, and we should start seeing information. Alright, so this is the servers it's connecting to, and here it's tried connecting to another server. And so if we create a game, what's it actually doing? So it's connecting to US East, which would make sense. And then it's sending a big block of information, which will be this. That here is being packed into this. And then it goes on to send game information. Alright, so we're going to want to figure out how to get this. Now, if we go back to their code and have a look at it, they've got maps, they've got here server IDX. Alright. So servers, there's a variable called servers. Now, if we go and have a look for servers, oh, that's actually really useful. They give you the variable. So here they give you an ID, so server 1. So that must be, if I go ahead and close this, if we go back to the title, server 0, server 1, server 2, yep, okay, that checks out. So we're going to want to print that again. So we're going to JSON parse it. No, JSON stringify, I mean. And then servers. And this will give us a list of all the servers. Now, because I like to pretty print, we're going to go JSON beautify and just make this look nice. And then we go back to our bots.js and let's make a let servers equal that. Alright. Let's change this to let as well. Let. So now we've got servers, and as you can see, subdomain, we're going to be using this to build the URL, because if we go back to shellshock.io, it's connecting to like the country.shellshock.io. So now what we're going to want to do is we're going to get rid of this, and we're going to want function join game, and we're going to make it take a code. Now, as you can see, when you create a code, sometimes there's a hashtag. I think it's always a hashtag. We're going to want to get rid of that. Because a hashtag doesn't help us at all. So yeah, say for example, you enter a hashtag, we're just going to pause this out. So if code 0 equals hashtag, so if the very first character of your code is a hashtag, then we're going to want to replace it. So code equals code.replace, and we're going to replace the hashtag with nothing. So that will get rid of any hashtag. Say for example, you accidentally just copy and paste it. Now we're going to want to get the server. So const server ID will equal, as you can see here, this very first character, if we look at the actual game code, server IDX, and server IDX is equal to the very first character. So also, if we notice here, everything here has been parsed in base 36. So what that actually means is this was a number, but it's now being represented in base 36. So we can easily reverse that. But for now, we just need to know that this is the server ID. And as we can find from here, it's the 0th character, and it's only 1 character long. So that has to be it. So we're going to use the same thing they use. And we're just going to steal it. Oh, sorry, I've got like corona and sore as frick throat. Don't know. So we're going to want to get the very first character, which is this, and we're going to want to parse. We want it to parse int. Oh, what's this shit? Alright, get rid of that. And we want to be code. Okay, and now we're going to want const game ID. And if we go back and look at their code, we can see that this is going to be the game ID, and that's going to be the game key. So what we can go ahead and do is, again, just steal their code. So we can go parse int code from 1 to 3, and that should work. And then we're going to want a key, so const game key is the exact same thing. So what's going to be meaning is these characters here are the game ID, and then, sorry, the first, these are the game ID, and then this is the game key. So now what we want to do is const URL equals, and we're going to want to build the URL. And keep in mind, if we go back and actually have a look at the URL, it is done like this. Let's find where it actually, okay, like this. So then there's a server in here. Actually, if we go back and have a look at this, we notice that, see, this subdom us.east. That's going to be what we have here. So we're going to want to use a bit of this, and then go servers, which will give us this variable. Then we want to pass in the server ID. So server ID dot sub dom. And then if we go console.log URL, this should now give us the right thing. So if we go join game, and pass this code here, and then open a console here and go new PowerShell here, and then go node bots.js, you see it gives us a valid URL. Alright, that's sweet. So now what we're going to do, now that we've got server ID, game ID, game key, and URL, we're now going to want to make our module to actually connect. So class bot, we're going to create a new class, and in the constructor, we're going to make it take a few things. Alright, let me think about what we're going to want. So okay, obviously we're going to want to take a URL, which is going to be where we connect to. So what server? Then we're going to want the actual server, so server ID. Then we're going to want we're going to have game ID to keep it consistent, and game key. And then we're going to want, alright, that should be enough. Yeah, that's all we need. So this dot URL equals URL, this dot game ID equals game ID, this dot game key equals game key. Alright, and now we're actually going to want to make the connection. So we're going to want to go this dot WebSocket, so we're going to make our WebSocket now, equals new WebSocket, and we're going to want to make it connect to the URL that we've passed in. So now what we can do is check if the WebSocket opens. So this dot WebSocket dot add event listener, and we're gonna, you can read the specifications about how WebSockets work so you can get the events, but we're gonna make it when the WebSocket has opened, it passes that into a function. So console.log WebSocket opened. Don't mind my spelling, I'm just rushing to do this. And now if we go back here and bot, oh, I'm a bot. So what we're going to want to do is from here, we're then going to want to go let botty. No, we don't even need to do that. We can just go new bot and then pass what we need to. So let's pass the URL, then we can pass the game ID, then game key. And if we go back here, it should, oh no, I botted a typo. WebSocket. Okay, WebSocket open, so it did connect, which means that it's working, but you'll notice that no one has joined. That's because we actually need to now send the join game. So back here where we've got WebSocket opened, we're going to want to now add a module, a method, which is just going to be called makeGame. And what that's going to take is that's going to take nothing for now. So what we want to do is, in our makeGame, we're going to want, let me think about this. We're going to want to, all we're going to make it take is nothing. And here's where we're missing a piece of information. We need their thing to compress data. So looking here, you can see there's a vt.getBuffer. Let's just, again, we know vt is going to be a object. So you can just copy paste all of this like that, and let's just stick it at the very top of our document because we don't really care about it. Now, I believe if you run this, you'll get errors. All right. So in the game code, if you go looking for the UT, we've now found UT. So here it is. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy all of this. Now, am I missing any important variables? I don't think so. So going back to bots, we can now go and stick UT here, and this should on function UT, which was here. So now we've got all of the parts required for this. Alright, cool. So now we've got all the parts required. We've got the UT, which we've got VT. I'm now going to minimize everything just because it's going to get too much otherwise. So now a lot of the stuff you guys will need to do yourself. I can't give you this. You need to find it in the code and extract it. But this is their method of encoding data to be sent to the server. So once you've got everything, you should have something that looks like this. So function UT, UT's prototypes, then function VT, then KT. And now we're ready to begin. So we're going to want to make our var buffer equals vt.get buffer. It should be, I think it's this. Yeah. And how we figure this out is now basically all we're doing is if we go to game code and go new WebSocket, we're now just literally copying and pasting this. So just follow me out here. Actually, I'm gonna just copy and paste it. So we're just gonna go here, copy, paste, and join game. So we're gonna want to keep it join game. Then down here, we're going to want P. Now, if we go, because we don't know what some of these variables are, we're gonna want to go and have a look at game code. So what is P? P equals private. Oh, so P is like how you're joining. So we're just gonna want to make it, I don't know, join private game. he dot join public. I don't know. I presume it doesn't matter. There's private, and he, remember, is this variable here. So join public, join private. We're just gonna go join private. UUID. I don't know what the hell that is. Where do they calculate that? UUID. I don't know. Just set to 0. If you don't know something, just set to 0. That normally works. Game type. Well, we're gonna make it join. This I don't think you need. Map ID we don't need either, so we're just gonna set to 0. U and D. So this is going to be our game code. So how I know this is if we have a look here, U and D from memory, yeah, here it is. So it's the parts that we need. So U is going to be this dot game ID, and D is going to be this dot game key. Now this, I don't know, I don't care about that. We don't care about class IDs, we don't care about weapons, we don't care about color, we don't care about that, we don't care about that. Player name, I'm just gonna set to bot. The rest of this stuff here, I don't even know what that is, get rid of it. And we're then gonna want to use this dot WebSocket instead. Now what we're gonna want to do is when it establishes a message, so this should make it join into the game now. So if we go ahead and run this, we get no errors, which is a very good sign. Oh, but we never, this dot, actually I might go that equals this, don't ask why, just let, and then that dot make game. Hopefully we get no errors. Alright, that seems to be working, I think. So now what we're going to want to do is, now that we've joined a game, let me just make sure. I have a sneaking suspicion that didn't work. Oh, we're not actually in a game. That would be why. Okay. Let's create another game and test it with a new code. So let's get this and go back to here, and down here we're going to want to use our new code. And it's opening and not closing straight away, which is a good sign. As you can see, still no one's showing up, even though the bot actually is in the game now. So now what we're going to want to do is, if we actually look, using what the code we had before, I don't think, oh yeah, you'll see after it joins a game, let me find it. Oh damn. After it joins a game, it sends all that information, and then it sends another packet. Now I can't find it here. Alright, so you would join a game and it sends packets, so you get the one size 105, then you get another packet which is 16, 16, somewhere here, so 105, 16, 16, somewhere here it sends another packet. And how I know this is just because I've looked at the code long enough. But if you look, if you go back to the code and then go WebSocket, oops, that's my own code, go WebSocket and scroll a bit down, you'll see on WebSocket close, so this is if it closed, you get an error, blah blah blah. WebSocket on message. Now we want that, so we're just gonna go and steal this code again. Yeah, and it ends here, so let's just take that and let's go back to our own code, so bots.js, and now we're gonna go this.websocket.add event listener, and we're gonna want to look for message, and we're gonna pass data, data out, and we're now gonna stick this here. So let's look at what we don't need. We don't care about this. We don't care about that. We don't really give a shit about any of this, to be honest. But what we do care about is we have joined a game. So what we're going to want to do here is fix up the code. So we're going to get rid of that. And look, I don't know what that shit is. Let's just go let derp equal key.data, but it's going to be data.data, and let x equal, we'll just use this, let fn equal that. Now all we have to do is switch fn, and we should be able to get rid of this. So now that all works, and we're then going to add break, and here now we should see, if we run it, join game type. Alright, so cool, it's running. Now all we want to do here is look at here, we're going to want to copy this, and now we're just going to want to tell the game that we have actually joined into it. So we're now going to want to go r.packInt, and we're going to want to stick this here. But if we look at HT, we can see one of the variables is client ready, and using my method of sticking a hook in here and having a look at what gets sent, you'll actually notice if you print them out and go through all of them, when you first join a game it sends number 18, and so you can reverse that and figure out, oh well, then it must be sending client.ready. So client.client ready, and then r.send that.websocket. Remember, that.websocket is passing a copy of the class, and I think that means we're now ready. Let's see what, there we go, we got a bot into the game. Now the bot isn't spawning, we can easily make it spawn though. If we look at what's it called, if we look at HE again, there's a packet called respawn, which if you go ahead and test that, you'll realize it doesn't work, but then you'll look and see there's another one called request respawn. Now what we do is go var whatever a equals, we're just going to copy this, var equals request respawn, change all of these to a, otherwise you'll get errors. And now if we go ahead and rerun this, we get a bot that spawns over there. Cool. Now we're going to want to make it constantly try and respawn. So set timeout, no, set interval function, and we're going to make it run every 2 seconds, I'll say. And now we're just going to stick that respawn code back inside of that function. Now we're done basically. We can now make a bot spawn. So I'm going to minimize the bot class. As you can see, this is the code. I will be sticking this on pastebin just because I know some of you will struggle and will need it. So we've now got a function called join game. Let's get rid of this crap here. Oh no, it's already closed. So we can give the game code and it joins. So now all we need to do is just go set, say we want to, let's go constant amount equals, say we want, I think 16 is how many bots you can get into a game, for var count equals 0, count is smaller than amount, then you go count plus plus, which is a simple for loop, and you just go here, stick that, and then when you close this and rerun the program, it will spawn 16 bots into the game. And as you can see, we've now got 16 bots into the game quite easily. So you can now add other stuff if you want, but this tutorial is just meant to give you an indication of the very basic stuff. So it's quite easy to do. Again, depending on the game, it gets harder and harder and harder. So Shellshock has got almost no verification, so you can easily just create bots like this. Next thing to note, your internet will lag. So I normally get like, I don't know, not too bad a ping, but summoning this many bots, and you can summon a lot. I think I summoned something like 400 bots into every single game on Shell Shock, and that started to kill my internet. But anyway, if you've got any questions, come join the Discord, Gaming Gurus. I'll have a link in the description, and that will have a Discord page dedicated to any questions or queries that people have.